I'm Julie Saunders.
I'm Jan Wilson. Julie and I both have experience as school librarians, and we've worked together as district library leaders.
In each episode, we'll dive into our profession with interviews and meaningful content to inspire you. We're not experts,
but we're pretty close.
The ideas and opinions shared by any host, guest, or listener are their own and do not represent those of any respective school district.
Welcome to Library Exchange.
This episode is supported by our friends at Kids Discover. We are sure you remember the beautifully written and illustrated Kids Discover magazines on topics like the American Revolution, ancient Egypt, and ecology.
Now, their digital platform, Kids Discover Online, is fast becoming a favorite for K-8 students. It offers an entire library of science and social studies content with multiple reading levels and a suite of features, making it accessible for every learner.
Ready to try it? Visit kidsdiscover.com/digital to get 60 days of trial access for your entire school. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. If you usually skip out before the end of episode recap, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this one. We've partnered with Demco for an exciting giveaway, and we are sharing the details at the start of the recap.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, Julie. We're still celebrating National Library Month, and I have been thinking a lot about this year's theme, Finding Your Joy, and we're definitely doing that today. Our guest is a former science and English teacher who is now in her 10th year as a high school librarian.
In 2024, she was named a mover and shaker by Library Journal, but her newest title is the 2026 School Librarian of the Year, presented by School Library Journal.
We are excited to have Allie Cornejo joining us today. Congratulations again and welcome to Library Exchange, Allie.
Oh, thank you so much, Jan and Julie. I'm so happy to be here. Been looking forward to it like you wouldn't believe.
Aw.
Allie, to start us off, will you tell us a little bit about Harlingen, Texas, your students, and how your high school is different from a traditional one?
Sure, absolutely. I love talking about where I'm from because I come from Harlingen, Texas, which is in deep South Texas. And I like to describe it as if you threw a marble in the shape of the state of Texas, wherever that marble lands at the very bottom, that's exactly where I'm located. So the very southern tip, we are a border city, and our area is a collection of cities along the border, which is called the Rio Grande Valley. More people would probably be familiar with it if they thought of South Padre Island, so we're very close to that. And it's a predominantly Hispanic community. English and Spanish are used interchangeably, sometimes within the same sentence. And it's a rich culture where we may eat tacos for lunch and cheeseburgers for dinner. And so I really love where I'm from. I was born and raised here, and I serve the community of Harlingen at a specialty high school named Harlingen School of Health Professions. And that school caters to students who would like to pursue a career in the medical professions from grades 8 through 12. And so in grades 8 through 10, they take general health science courses. And in grades 11 and 12, they take practicum courses in our specialty classrooms. And they actually go out into the community to help doctors and dentists and pharmacists do their work there in their clinics. So it's really exciting to be their librarian because I have to search for health science material to infuse into my library programming, but it's a whole lot of fun.
So interesting. And did you mention your enrollment numbers?
So my enrollment numbers are about 500. So that's a small population for high school. However, that really allows for that close-knit school community. We have smaller numbers in classroom sizes, and I know everyone's name. So it really is a beautiful thing having that class size. During lunch, it does get a little crowded in here, but we give them a little bit of recess. They go out and play, and they really do play. They play with all this gym equipment, and they're not allowed to have their phones, so they really are allowed to get that fresh air. It's really nice. Yeah.
Well, Allie, it sounds like you do find your joy every day at work. I love your school. That's very unique. And your students are prepping for their future health careers. So can you tell us how you align your lessons and even your library's resources to support that health science focus?
Yes, absolutely. So we're very education technology forward. And what we like to do is extend the lessons that are happening in the classroom and extend them into the library. So usually when the students come in, they're showing mastery of concept or they're showing mastery of their skills. So we try to get creative in ways that they can show that mastery. So for example, if they're learning about new scientists or doctors for Halloween, for example, we had a special assignment where they came in and they used Canva to make gravestones. I know it sounds a little ominous, but they used gravestones to identify scientists and doctors of the past, and they put details of their accomplishments and when they were born and what were their big wins and trophies, So those gravestones came out so beautiful, so creative, and on Canva. So they're learning their graphic design skills. We have biology classes coming in to do mitosis and meiosis on stop motion animation apps on our iPads. And so I teach the skill of stop motion animation. I don't teach mitosis and meiosis. That's the teacher's job. And that's what I try to stress to other librarians. You don't need to know how to teach all of these subjects and skills. That's the teacher's job. What you can do is use your creativity skills so that they can create a really great product. And so I love having the students in. I teach them how to use the stop animation application, and we use Play-Doh so that they can show how the cell divides and multiplies. Those are one of my favorite lessons to have in the library.
Yeah, so I want you to repeat that because it's something I've heard Julie say a lot, is that librarians aren't responsible for teaching the content.
Absolutely. So a lot of us feel like, how on earth are we going to bring in a calculus classroom into the library, and how am I going to extend that lesson? Well, the concept should already be taught to the students. The teacher should be there to support. And if you're doing perhaps a graph on numbers on Mac or on Excel, or now you can do graphs on Canva and create a beautiful chart using numbers. They fill in the numbers. They do all that work. You just have to be EdTech knowledgeable and have that EdTech literacy in order to think of a creative way that they can create a beautiful product. And so that's why it's really important for us as librarians. We're really good at self-teaching. We're really good at looking for information on how to teach ourselves how to create these beautiful and creative products like on Adobe Express or on Canva, or make a video or make a podcast. And we just apply it to the skills that were learned already.
Can you talk a little bit about the 3D print you discussed with us with Phineas Gage's skull, and then you even talked about 3D printing teeth?
Yes, absolutely. So I have 2 3D printers because one just wasn't enough. And they are always running. One of my favorite projects is when we have the students come in and create the skull of Phineas Gage. And they were learning this for AP psychology. And Phineas Gage, if we don't know who that is, he was a construction worker in England, I believe. And he had an accident on site where rebar got stuck in his frontal lobe and came out of his cheek. And it went through his brain. He lived miraculously. However, it completely changed his personality. And that's what they taught in AP psychology. And so it's really hard to visualize the damage that was done to his face. So we used the 3D printer to print out his skull, and we used some sort of prop. I don't know if we used pipe cleaners or something like that to show the rebar. It was a visual and it was tactile. It was something that they could see where the damage was done and what part of the brain. So that was really great for the students to see. Since I'm at a health science campus, a lot of these models are really expensive for our teachers and for our programs. And of course, money is tight everywhere. So with the 3D printers, we've been able to print out models of teeth so that they can use in the classroom as teaching models. And I print them out every year in different colors. And I've even printed them out in glitter. What I always recommend to librarians is if you're going to have a 3D printing program, it's so important to have guidelines in place. You have a 3D printer, you're ready to use it, you've learned how to use it, you want the students to start, but you need to have guidelines in place. Like how big can a design be? How much filament are you willing to donate for the project? Can they print out personal projects as opposed to school projects? How much time it's going to take, because it takes a lot of time. So all of these things need to be thought of beforehand. And I have a lot of those resources, and I would love to share if anybody's interested in opening a 3D program.
Wow, great tips. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing those things.
And now a word from our sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by The Child's World. For more than 50 years, The Child's World has brought a world of high-quality educational books to young readers in school and public libraries everywhere.
Their engaging titles help kids better understand the world around them, supporting early literacy, language arts, social studies, and STEM, all while encouraging curiosity, critical thinking, and a genuine love of learning.
Every book is thoughtfully created with educators and librarians in mind, making it easier to connect readers with content that informs, inspires, and engages. Since 1968, one goal has remained the same: helping all children truly enjoy reading and learning.
Discover their books at childsworld.com or contact Martha Stockton at marthastockton@gmail.com. The Child's World, bringing the world to young readers.
So, Allie, let's switch gears to something you just shared at the Texas Library Association conference last month. We know you're passionate about highlighting books in the collection. What are your go-to strategies for delivering a book talk?
So book talks are my absolute favorite. And I may sound like Elf. Like when I say book talks are my favorite, because they are. Whenever I start a library lesson, or sometimes I approach teachers on campus and I tell them, can I please pop in for 5 to 10 minutes to book talk these books? And what I mean by book talking is before I begin anything and I have an audience of students, I usually have about 6 or 7 books under my arm ready to market them, ready to sell them. And so I go book by book talking about, and these are my favorite books, by the way, and I'm always reading. I usually have about 3 books that I'm reading at one time because I want to make sure that I am kept informed of what the most popular books are for this grade level. So when I get a book, I introduce it, and I usually have some sort of tagline like, this book is going to break you. You know, and so that sort of hooks their attention. And I tell them, you know, you have your main characters, Tim and Sally have been in a relationship, but they've broken up and Sally's destroyed. And then I tell them about the hugest challenge that's happening in the book and a little bit about how the character is trying to overcome that challenge without giving it away. And I like to talk about the genre. I like to talk about previous works that the author has written. I like to talk about the feelings that I was left with. So if I say, this book made me cry, it made me laugh, or I also try to find connections to what I know is in my audience. If I know that it's a Hispanic character, then we're going to have similar cultures in the book and also with my students. Just trying to make it exciting. But I think the most important thing about a book talk is that when you're talking about the book, you have to have a lot of emotion. You have to have a lot of joy when you deliver these book talks. And you can't show any fear. No fear. You have to make sure that you are just as excited as the gentleman who announces all those movie trailers. You know, you have to make it sound just as exciting. And I guarantee you that by the end of your library lesson or by the end of your 10 minutes when you're in a classroom, they're going to be asking, ma'am, where was that book that you were talking about? They're usually gone. And those books are usually gone for the rest of the year because as soon as they come back, they're back off the shelf because I have students asking, what book were you talking about? Do you have it? And, they put it on hold. And what this eliminates is book fatigue, searching for a book. And reader's advisory is great, but sometimes they don't take your advice. And that's the worst thing, when you go to a shelf and you're giving reader's advisory and you show them the book and you talk about it, and sometimes they don't choose that book. I know librarians will know what I'm talking about. But when you do that book talk, it really is a great way to market those books. And they look at your collection of thousands of books and they do get fatigued from trying to figure out which one's going to be the book for them. So this is a great way to get a great book in the hands of a student in a very efficient manner. And if we're at a loss and none of that works, I usually have like a little jar just like this filled with little strips of paper that have titles of books in them. And they're all my favorite books. And I tell them, okay, you can't decide on a book. Choose a little strip of paper. And they choose one and we say, that's the one you're going to check out. And it's usually a success.
I love that. That's kind of like blind date with a book in a way where
Yeah.
you're just choosing and it kind of destiny chooses it for you. Because I know there's also a lot of librarians who will do the book talks and the biggest fear is they do it so well that all the books are checked out in the first class period. So then what do you do? So it's nice to have that backup plan for when that happens. So those are some great tips.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Allie, switching gears again, you're navigating and leading AI literacy in your district. So how are you helping your colleagues move past the fear and shift their mindset towards seeing it as a tool?
Absolutely. So our district has, last year, we started an AI task force, and it was mostly focused on creating policy around AI because there are laws that we have to follow when it comes to AI, and there are parameters and limitations that we need to follow in order to stay safe. A lot of us logged on to ChatGPT without really knowing the fundamentals. We were just really excited that we had this really cool tool. But now that last year is over and we have policy in place, our task force has moved to a new phase where we're talking about the entire operation of our school district using AI. That means our front desk receptionists, our secretaries, our bookkeepers, our registrars, as well as our teachers and students. And so we have a pod for that. We have a pod for digital wellness because our little ones are looking at screens from bell to bell, and it shouldn't be that way. We need to make sure that we're looking after their wellness and their mental health and that they're at least looking away from the screen every 20 minutes. And there's a digital citizenship pod, which I'm the lead of. And digital citizenship is a cornerstone of all of our library programming. And naturally, AI literacy would fall into digital. And so district-wide, we're coming up with AI literacy and digital citizenship curriculum for all levels so that both librarians and teachers can disseminate that to their students. On campus, I am not only a librarian of students, I'm also a librarian of teachers. So I meet with them on a monthly basis to teach some sort of edtech tool. And lately, when I meet with teachers, I'm teaching some sort of AI tool. But I'm also teaching them the fundamentals of AI. They probably think they know everything, but we start talking about bias. And that these generative AIs are being fed this information and you don't know from what part of the country that information is coming from. So they've got to watch out for bias. They got to watch out for accuracy because hallucinations are a real thing. AI would rather tell you a very confident false answer than tell you it doesn't know. And it sounds so real and you think it's real, but we're starting to talk about those hallucinations and how important it is to verify accuracy. And then we're also talking about the dreaded conversation. Yes, your students are using AI. You know, they go home and they're using it. And that also poses the conversation of equity, though. Not everyone has a personal device that they're accessing AI at home. So then you have students who do have access to AI at home and students who don't have access to AI at home. So now there's an unequal footing there. And so our school district has decided to embrace AI because we know that it's the future. It's not the present, it's the now. And it's not the future job market, it's the job market now. So we know now that we need to focus on skills of prompt engineering. We know that we need to teach them how to properly use AI, and we need to teach students how to understand what the fundamentals are, because at the moment, I think a lot of students are using it as a shortcut. Mm-hmm. AI is doing the work for them, and who's doing all the learning? AI is. It's getting smarter while our students are skipping out on the skills that they're learning, that they should be learning. And so as a librarian, I'm taking the lead at teaching the fundamentals to both teachers and students. We're having those conversations of digital citizenship, not putting PII into these AI generators, which is personal identifiable information, making sure there's no student names, no date of births, no addresses, and that goes for everybody, the entire school district. And so now I'm teaching the students. I love to use Notebook LM with the students. I think it's a really great tool that shows them how to use AI responsibly because they feed it the information, and Notebook LM will bring it back in different formats like a podcast style audio or a video or a slideshow. And so I'm teaching them how to shift, very important mind shift, from a shortcut method to a thinking partner method. They need to treat AI as a thinking partner as opposed to taking a shortcut and having the work done in 2 seconds. And I tell them, you're not being as slick as you think you are. We know you're using AI. And so we're opening those conversations because AI in a lot of campuses, it's very taboo. Nobody's talking about it. The teachers aren't talking about it. The students aren't talking about it. And I think it falls upon us as librarians to bring this conversation out from the shadows so that we use AI in a responsible and ethical way. And that's right in our wheelhouse.
Wow, it sure is. They are so lucky to have you on that committee, especially as a librarian. Such a good perspective. And thank you for sharing that great advice for the listeners. Really just gives good perspective and basics where it's not overwhelming. You just described that so beautifully. So thank you for that. Allie, as we close, please tell our listeners how they can follow you.
Absolutely. So on all of my social media, I am at Allie the Librarian. When I started that was like 10 years ago. And I could not think of anything more creative, but it's grown and and I'm really proud of it now. So at Allie the Librarian, usually I'm very frequent on Instagram and TikTok. I try to be very generous with all of my resources because so many librarians have been very generous with me. And please do not hesitate to reach out for anything that if you see interesting or if you want to bounce ideas off of each other. I'm so open to it because I love librarians and I love the library. And so if you need anything, please don't hesitate.
Thank you so much, Allie.
Yeah, thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It's been a wonderful experience.
Jan, we've exchanged ideas and it's almost time for the recap. But first, we have to share the details on our special giveaway. We partnered with the wonderful Bronwyn Bates at Demco to highlight their dynamic shelving line. It's all about flexibility in your library.
And one of you is going to win a zigzag counter shelf display of your own. These shelves are total game changers, Julie. You know that.
Yes.
To enter, just head over to our Instagram at Library Exchange. This Thursday, April 23rd, we'll post a trivia question about this episode.
We've set the comments to stay hidden to keep things fair. Just post your response there and no one except us will see it. Make sure to get your one best answer in by the end of the day on Monday, April 27th.
We'll pick a winner from the correct entries, and Demco will ship that zigzag display straight to your library.
So, after talking with Allie,
yeah,
it seems pretty obvious why she is the National School Librarian of the Year. She hit all the major talking points that we have found that we also emphasize with the librarians in our own district, especially as she describes that role is not to teach the curriculum. The teachers are doing that. You are aligning programming and activities with the curriculum, so get creative and support teaching and learning at your school by helping students create a really great product.
I was so interested in hearing about the high school where she worked and how she supports that health science curriculum with her students and teachers by using creative tools and technical skills like the stop motion animation app or graphic design in Canva.
Absolutely. And again, having 3D printers isn't just about learning how to use Tinkercad and 3D print. It's also about how to reinforce the concepts being taught in the classroom. And it provides students the opportunity to synthesize learning and express what they have learned in a different way.
Yeah. Also, we loved her passion about book talks, and I was so impressed with how she grabbed any opportunity she could with students in classes to book talk some of her favorite titles. And then for her indecisive readers, she has that choice jar featuring her favorite titles.
I love that too. I think we both loved Allie's guidance for using AI. The biggest takeaway for me is shifting the mindset that AI is a shortcut to learning to AI being your thinking partner. We both know how important using thinking strategies and activities that encourage the thinking process are for learning. Coaching students on how to use AI as a thinking partner is just another one of these thinking instructional strategies.
Yes. And you know what, Julie? You can use AI to help you do book talks.
That's true.
I mean, you can type in book talk hook with the title of your book and it'll help you. Anyway, I digress. You guys, good luck with the trivia question. And the next time an episode is released, it will be the month of May. Thanks, everyone.
Make sure to visit our website at www.libraryexchangepodcast.com.
You'll find episode notes and links. You can even submit your questions or inspiring stories that may be featured on the podcast.
If you're looking for some swag for your library or book-loving friends, visit libraryexchange.etsy.com.
That's a lot of URLs, so I'm glad you had to say all of that, Julie.
Thanks for joining us. We can't wait to have you back for our next episode of Library Exchange.